This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
We're we're starting a little late, but we can go through this agenda pretty quickly. First item is to start the meeting at 8:20 on April 16th. This is the regular meeting of the building committee. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from March 5th. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of invoices. We just went through these. I'd like to add to the agenda for minutes for, where are they? Don't put them away too quickly.
I do have copies here, if anybody would like a copy of the invoices. Good? We added two, so I'll just pass those. I have a copy. There's an additional Gilbane invoice for month of March and Collier's invoice for month of March, since the last one that we sent.
The invoices that were approved were Gilbane for invoice 36 for $38,481.32. Gilbane 37 for $611,591.79. Perkins Eastman 49970.13.0-6 for $4,662.75. Collier's International 2054927 for $2729.90. Collier's again for 20886 $791.64. Anthem Sports 207539 $17,776. And BVH Integrated Services 2114135-20 for $1,340. Do I have a motion to bring these onto the agenda for approval?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll take them individually. The first was for Gilbane for 36, invoice 36, $38,481.32. Your motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Your second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gilbane 37 for $611,591.79. And as Chuck explained, some of the other members may not have heard, most of this is retainage release, right, Carrie?
Yes.
And I listed in the agenda on the second page the retainage releases that I had, and that I think is the, did you see that?
I think those are through to date.
Yeah.
The one since the last meeting, were primarily, there's a good portion of the masonry contractor, they're holding back $5,000 still for a couple miscellaneous punch list items. Shepherd Steel, that was about $157,000, so that's a big chunk there. I'm just gonna highlight the larger ones.
MJ Daily.
Yep. They still have, we're still holding $400,000 there in the current one. But these are the ones that if you compare the last month of this, that they're significantly reduced, if not down to zero. Park Railway and Con Acoustics, that's the drywall. Sub was Con Acoustics, and I'll make sure I'm reading the right line item. That was about $200,000, so that's a big chunk of change. I mean, their contract was, $3.8 million, so large amount there. And then Campataro is a site work contractor. That was about $31,000. That got significantly reduced. So those are just some of the bigger. There's other ones too. You could look at the invoice, but
The one, Greenwood, are we retaining anything on Greenwood?
it's the
roof?
Yeah. Let me just. Yeah, we still have $129,000.
Okay, because we don't have a warranty. We have to,
Yep.
we're still waiting for the warranty to be signed off. Okay.
It's on the roof.
Okay.
It's on the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're putting in that second roof drain, or that additional roof drain. And then we have to get the manufacturer to sign off the warranty.
Correct. Yeah, we had some items that were, base bid install items to be corrected, and then we also had some design items that had to be corrected in order for us to secure the warranty. And the roof drains are tied into that.
So we won't release that until we have the warranty signed off. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, so that is the Gilbane number 37. I'll call for a motion to accept.
Make a motion?
Is there a second? All in favor? Perkins Eastman, 49970.13.0-6 for $4,662.75. That was just their normal invoice, correct?
Yeah, a majority of it was
DTC.
DTC for, I'm trying to remember, we had some additional work that they had to look at, but it was mostly their invoices for DTC.
Yeah, a couple hours from Joe, but that's about it.
Yeah. Trying to look back.
Motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Colliers, 20549 for $2,729.90. Your motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Second Colliers, 20886 for $791.64. Your motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anthem Sports, 207-539 for $17,776. Your motion?
What's this one?
That's the netting
Netting.
For the,
Ball stopper system.
okay.
I'll make a motion.
that Phil installed, Phil and his guys.
So, add that to your resume, you
The coldest days that we could possibly do it too. Oops.
All in favor?
Planning on your part. Yeah, he picked the
Thanks,
days.
thanks, Jeff.
know that the weather's bad until July.
It looks good, you can't even see it.
Huh?
Yeah.
You can't even see it, really. BVH Integrated Services, 2114-135-20 for $1,340. Motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
BVH, they're still on board, do they still have a lot of work to do? They're the commissioning agents, right?
No, it's just finalizing their punch list on commissioning items primarily. Then they'll be doing closeout documentation for high-performance buildings, so
What about?
there's
our-
always lags afterwards, just because
Well, this
of
one I
the
can
nature of it.
understand,
Yep.
but are there any other consultants that are still working?
No, FSS, they're done with, that was a stormwater monitor. We stopped them in December. They were complete. Materials testing lab's complete, so it's primarily, of course, Gilbane ourselves, BVH, and a little bit of Perkins at this point. We are, last Tuesday, Karen and I met, we're kind of going through issues. Some FF&E got to get together, primarily WB Mason and their invoicing. We've had issues in other projects where the invoices is lagged behind, but they have some open POs. We just want to get those closed out. I think there's some with Red Thread. Theirs is a little bit larger. Actually, I was kind of surprised, so I'm going to be corresponding with them. I'm showing about 10,000 left on their PO, but so we got to reconcile with them as well. But a lot of them are closed out for that, so yeah, there's not a whole. It's really not many.
So
other.
they can't, you don't see where the 10 comes from?
I'm sorry?
The 10,000, you can't see where it comes from?
Well, I have all the invoices, all detailed list out,
Yeah.
and it's a matter of, sometimes what happens, they have a large contract. Theirs was for almost $500,000, so there could have been they could have had some adjustments in unit pricing that could have made that up in that amount. But basically, what I want to get from them is are you've delivered everything, and Gilbane's been reviewing them as well. But there's a detailed list that they'll have, and I want to find out if you've delivered everything. We're good. I'd like to release that money, but I don't want to do it until
Onto the next.
they're confirmed with their books and we reconcile them because we don't want to come back 3 months later and go, you know, we haven't been paid, so
Alright.
like to see their accounting from their side. But most of them are zeroed out and incomplete, a couple small balances here and there.
Okay, so we did all the invoices. I see here now, approval of retained releases. We discussed them. Is that everything?
It's essentially in the invoice.
That list that's on the back? Some of these are not really,
That's, I think, more of a reporting of
Yeah.
what's been released to date for everybody, because as we go through the last couple of months with the invoices, there's some that have been released and some that are still being held, so I think those report to just give an update on what's been released.
so this is a
We just
form,
want everyone to be
this is
aware
a
of-
formality.
Yeah.
I mean, it really,
It's more an FYI,
Yeah.
that they've been released, they're closed, they're getting closed out.
All right, what I'd rather do, rather than to do it today, is to get a better list together so it's more, you know,
You update it.
so we know exactly
So we,
what we're doing and
what do you want on the list? Just, you know, the,
what's been released.
Base
Who has been
contract.
released, what the amount that's been released,
Mm-hmm.
and if there's any retainage,
being held.
yeah.
Sure, no problem.
Yep.
So we'll do that at the next meeting. All right, we got a couple of change orders. One of them is a credit of $9,536 from MJ Daly, ATP 251. I sent that with the last notice, I don't have it with me now. But Carrie, you want to talk about that, or do you have any information?
Yep, I have. So, as we went through the commissioning and the closeout process, there was, some items that were, originally called for on the base design, and they were found to be, either not installed or not required based on the actual equipment that was installed by MJ Daly. Through that process, you know, there's, you know, a couple different routes that we take when these instances occur. We either demand that they install what's shown on the documents. Sometimes when, you know, the design team looks at it and they look at the equipment that's installed, they say, yeah, it's shown, you know, in black and white on our documents, but it's not technically required for the system to be functioning. Or based on, you know, the manufacturer model that was provided. So these specific items that are listed on the ATP, which is deletion of airflow stations on the AHUs, some pressure gauges, thermometer, a ball valve on each VAV, which is a total of 21. There's just a lot of those. As well as the gas regulator to the outside of each boiler. So those items, based on the fact that the Airco boiler manufacturer doesn't require them, there's a, you know, a laundry list of credits that are due to the client, based on, you know, them being in the base documents and not actually being installed or required at this point. So the design team has reviewed all of these items and agrees to the deletion of them. Also, I believe they've reviewed the price associated, or the credit associated with it. So instead of forcing MJ Daly to install stuff that is not required to make the system functioning, they've offered a credit.
So the cost they gave us for a credit is equal to the cost of what it would have been if they had to install 26 ball valves? I don't believe that for a minute.
During the course of the work. Not going back now, obviously going back now.
Correct.
To install them, it would be.
Credits are never
But the
going down.
credit should be equal to
Well,
it being
it's-
installed during the course of the
It's not just
work.
ball valves, it was the airflow, it was the ball valves on the boilers. I mean, that's a pretty crappy credit, just saying. I don't know what the actual values are, but it doesn't seem equal to me.
But we can go back and review it again and come back and,
I would tell them to put everything in right now, we want it. Then see what they come back with for a credit.
Who
was on the plan.
reviewed the credits?
The credits were
DTC.
reviewed by
Perkins
Lindsay,
Eastman,
DTC, Perkins Eastman.
What do you think, Chuck?
It's a credit, so we don't have to approve it today. Let's go back and review it, and we'll push it further. I wouldn't expect to,
Again, not my call, but
Yeah.
I would go back and tell them the client doesn't accept it. They want you to install whatever was supposed to be on the plan, and then see if they raise their number. It costs a heck of a lot more to put it in now than if they follow the plans.
Well, why was it eliminated now? Or are we just hearing about this now, all this stuff was eliminated now?
So some of it was eliminated through the submittal process when, like, for instance, the boilers. The submitted and approved boiler, this particular piece of the work was not required for that boiler. So, you know, it's as the project progresses. And, you know, it gets fully documented through the commissioning process as far as, you know, the differences between what's shown. Because they're like a fresh set of eyes. They come in and they look at it and they're like, well, you know, black and white on paper, these things are shown and they're not installed, and they do a very thorough job of sort of identifying these items. So, you know, we still have retainage on MJ Daily in far excess of the $9,000 that's owed, so.
And if they install these, this is an improvement, or this would be an improvement if they install all
What
these?
what it does is help us isolate certain pieces of equipment at better levels than they have right now. These ball valves are just basically to shut off what's feeding the equipment that's up there. So
On the VAVs,
on the
yeah.
VAVs. So it's easier to isolate when you're going to go work on them. You have it closer instead of having to find out which one it is down the line.
But they were eliminated per design.
well, it's a
Correction.
recommendation to eliminate. It's ultimately up to the owner.
And I'm sure there's a shut off for that somewhere else,
Yeah.
which is why they don't require it right at the unit. But when it's at the unit, it's just much easier to work on if you have a problem with that unit.
Chuck, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, no, I think what I recommend, we're gonna go back and look at it, but if there's specific items that Phil needs from a mechanical, if it's enhancing his and it's called for in the documents, we own it. So ultimately, it's yours and Phil, you know, collectively the owner's decision whether or not these are accepted as deletions. It's not up to the commission agent or the design team. They can recommend it, and it's ultimately
I
up to
mean,
you
Phil, it
guys.
sounds like you're more unhappy with the price of the.
Well, it is.
I mean,
Truthfully, I'm happy with the price. And
So
we
if
have-
it were
we-
$20,000, do you still want them installed?
If they're giving us 20,000, I would take the money. Because we can still shut these things off. We can
Chuck, do
still
you
have
think that
place.
this is a fair
It's a negotiating
reimbursement?
tool, I think.
Do you think it's a fair?
No, we're gonna go back. I'll have my guys, because we have a commissioning side as well, and I'll get their input. And again, you know, I know Gilbane's got their mechanical people. We have, you know,
I just think it's a good argument too.
that we can look at. I mean, you know, credits, frankly, you know, credits are rarely one-to-one, you know, and that's reality. I'd love to say that, yeah, we get 100% back, but the reality is, even if it's, you know, we say in the field, it's closer, but, you know, that's why we don't like doing add alternates that are deletions, because we don't feel we get the full value of that back, so.
Okay, so we'll revisit that.
Yeah, just hold it, it's a credit, so it's,
The next two, I'm gonna put them together for a minute. We have 251, 252 and 253, which are both electrical issues. Auditorium egress lighting, that's the strip lighting going down between the aisles. And that one is for $58,706. And the exterior lighting, additional exterior lighting for $12,796. These were ATPs put together by Gilbane at our request, and they're with our contractor for the building, Edmore, and it seems like their costs are very high, put it that way.
Yeah.
And Chuck, you wanna, I mean, we talked briefly about maybe we wanna go outside and just go to another electrical contractor that's,
I would check the state
Around,
contract
so-
list, see who's on it,
We have the design specs, correct? So they just have
Yes.
to,
Yeah, we have the bolt and everything. We would just issue that as a request for proposal. My recommendation is not to accept these, and then look for electricians on state trade labor, state contract.
I just hate, I hate dragging this thing out. We're so close. It's like right, almost there, but not quite. We need a couple of things like this, keep dragging out. Now I have a couple others too. So we'll table these and go for our requotes.
Yep.
When you requote it, just make sure that you include the trenching and the patching of the floor
floor.
that's
Get
associated
across
with it.
the aisle.
Correct.
That's in the spec though, right? Is that in the spec? It's not in the spec.
We would, Gary, what we would,
Site visit.
yeah, we'd bring them out to the site, review it, get together with Phil, I'd be out there with them, and just, show them what it is, and the conditions, so.
All right. These are additional items. We're talking about the vestibule sprinkler leak. That still needs to be resolved with the one in the front where that burst last winter. We still don't really know what the cause of that was, if it was the insulation, if it was something
Yeah,
else.
I don't know if anyone got out there to do any testing on, because it's too late.
No, I was trying to get our guy out there, Phil, and the person our expert that does it was tied up with other projects. I just couldn't break him free to do a thermal
So we
scan.
hit it with the thermal camera, but there wasn't enough differential between indoor and exterior temperature. We sort of like missed the cold snap. The days that they were out there, it was, there was only like a 15, 20 degrees differential between inside and outside. So it wasn't enough to pick up any kind of driving cold.
Is there anything that we can do just to?
Again,
Just
my
stuff
opinion is
insulation.
to still put a linear vent,
I agree. I think that's the
Like a
simplest.
transfer grill?
like
Yeah.
a transfer grill, so you're taking that heat and transferring it up into the cavity. One, it can't hurt,
It can't hurt.
because we're not getting the heat down where it's supposed to be anyway, because of where they're located. So, to put some type of linear vent in and exhaust that heat up into that cavity's gotta help. And I would do it over the front door area where we're thinking that the cold air is coming from. So at least we, treat that air that we think is coming in and getting cold. That would be my suggestion without knowing exactly what it is.
Well, I think that's, the prudent thing to do, or, it's the easiest. And it's,
Joe
the-
Joe will tell you that the heat goes through the sheet rock, and I'm telling you, no, that's not true.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily
I don't
agree with that,
necessarily
so.
agree with that. Might radiate
But-
through a little bit, but it's not gonna actually,
But if we have a real leakage issue with the insulation, that's,
and before we close the ceiling up, I don't know if there's any way we can get more up in there to see if we have, like, the corrugation, and make sure that's all insulated from the roof lines, where it sits down on the steel. I mean, that's the only place I can really think that it might be coming through.
right. I don't know what the solution is. We have to
So
wrap
what do we
this up
do?
somehow.
Well, what do we do with Phil's recommendation? Can we just,
We need a very small guy to get up inside there.
Somebody 3 or 4 feet.
It's really hard to get up there and
Yeah.
see.
But adding a grill is nothing. We
yeah,
can,
can we do that? Like, what do we need to do to do?
but I don't know if that's going to ultimately solve the problem if we have a.
Well, it's better than what we have now,
I
which
can't
is
guarantee it
nothing.
either, but I can tell you it would definitely help.
I think, Phil,
We're trapping
even
a lot of heat up there.
if we have to get up there again and look at the condition, because there's a lot of structural steel and components that are in there that don't always make it easy to inspect what we're
Right.
talking about
No,
these.
I got you.
But if we have access to it, one option is to, get a spray
Spray
foam insulation into there as a preventive. My gut feeling is that might be the cause. But I think we're gonna have to monitor this even next year to ensure that, okay, is that measure effective, as well as combination with that louver, because there's gonna be some residual. Is it enough to meet the intent? I'm not sure
Well,
without,
can't we just do the spray installation and the grill
yeah.
Yeah,
and just,
I would just do it
Do it
and
and
then
then
monitor it and
monitor
see
it.
what happens, and
Yeah.
just,
So what do we need to do to go forward with that? Is it Gilbane?
I can get a quote for that.
Is this whole experience a insurance issue? Is this a design issue? Is this?
I've already paid for the repairs, so,
So,
But-
Board of Ed paid for them?
I let it.
It wasn't clear what the cause was.
And we have a $5,000 deductible, and all the repair work for the water leakage, everything was $5,000.
But we still have to pay for the
Yeah,
ceiling.
right.
Are we going to determine a cause or a assignment of blame, if you will? or-
Would like to, Dave, I mean, I know the question is an error and omission, that's just, I don't know that right now. I couldn't put that on there, we'll try to,
But I mean, I'm
to look at
just,
it.
you know, I'm just thinking, if this is a pipe bursting, potentially big deal next year and every winter.
In truth, it wasn't a
How do
pipe.
we,
Well, actually, it wasn't a pipe, it was the head itself. So I can't even say, that's why I'm a little taken aback that the head froze, the pipe didn't break, so there was no split in the pipe itself. It was the head that just blew off from the actual connection.
So the head wasn't installed properly?
No one knows.
it's hard to say.
Hard to say.
We can speculate on it, it could have been, you know,
The system was pressure tested though, so.
yeah, I mean, you could have got the water freezing and that being the weak link, you know, if freezing was the case and it pushed that down.
Pushed it down.
But was that below the ceiling?
Yes.
So heating
well,
above the
just,
ceiling is
we've
not gonna
been
help.
through all this before.
Well,
I'm just
you
wondering,
guys started
what's gonna
about-
happen next winter?
Well,
What's gonna
that's-
happen the winter
exactly,
after?
that's
Is
what
this
we
gonna
wanted
hit
to find out.
5,000?
Right.
What's gonna happen if it happens on a Friday night and nobody catches it until Sunday morning or Monday morning?
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I'm
Well,
just-
the alarms go off right away.
I think
You're
we
not
all,
gonna- It's not gonna run 2 minutes without an alarm going
I
off.
think we're all afraid of that, Dave.
Because you get a
You know,
water
that's
pressure from the fire system, it right away tells you. But that's not the point, you're correct. You gotta insulate it. You know, again, the vent can't hurt because we have so much heat up at that ceiling.
So we'll try something and see what happens, and fingers crossed for next winter.
Well, theoretically, it was designed
To work the way it is.
correctly. If there was a problem with the insulation,
Okay.
maybe we can correct that. I don't know if we don't really know if there's a problem with the insulation or not. Right?
And the plan is to just keep it warmer up there for now.
That's,
Just
Yeah.
some residual heat, because you have these unit heaters in the ceilings and they're supposed to be pumping it down, but they're, what, 17 feet,
Yeah.
16 feet tall.
16 feet.
So,
Typically,
Questions?
what you would do is some type of forensic failure analysis to determine what happened. So you'd go get a mechanical engineer, and you'd get a mechanical contractor, and they would take a look at what's there and tell you whether or not it's gonna fail again.
And we could repair it for the cost of those services, right?
Well, I mean, you spent $5,900 on ServPro, according to my February 5th notes, right? So the issue isn't avoiding $5,900 every year. The issue is fixing it so that there's not any loss or any failure, potentially a much larger failure in the scenario that they've described where it's not discovered immediately,
absolutely.
because you're relying on the alarms, and that's not the way it's supposed to work.
No, no.
So the question is, does the building committee want to have some type of analysis done to determine whether or not what's there now is defect-free?
And do you use the same engineers that designed it?
No.
No.
No,
No,
go-
any type of forensic analysis has to be independent.
Okay.
and we can recommend others, I know, we have our commissioning group that's not associated with the project, but you may want to go totally independent, third party, even from us. It's up to you, Jeff, how you want to proceed.
The town's using an engineer for doing all the antenna work, structural, they do mechanical, out of Branford. What's their name?
There's quite a few firms out
Sure.
there that are capable, so we can recommend one.
That's just a question of whether or not you want to.
Just to get a quote from them.
It
see
would be
what
good to
it
get a
costs.
quote just to see,
Do we
because we're
have,
gonna be hoping that this works, but
do we have the failed sprinkler head?
Do we have the failed sprinkler head? That's a good question, I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, typically, if you did a failure analysis, you would test what failed, but understanding that that may not be possible, the emphasis should be on making sure what's there now. I mean, it's kind of a retrospective, you know, looking at what's there, and if what's there is defective, then that helps us in terms of determining culpability as well as a fix to avoid future problems. I mean, it shouldn't be more than a couple $1,000s to have,
Oh,
They're gonna look at the design
whether
documents,
it's
they're gonna look at
BL
the
or
field.
somebody like that,
Yeah.
go in there and,
So part of the issue for us to determine the insulation piece, to see if there's any voids in the insulation, is that it's a concealed condition.
Right.
So there might be some destructive
right.
testing. yeah.
pieces
Right,
of it.
Sure.
right. So that adds cost in terms of restoring it. yeah.
But it's always gonna be an open issue unless we get, you know, we could go in there and try to fix it ourselves.
Yeah,
but I
if it's
think
something
that's-
you're worried
I
about,
might be guessing at it and
I would
Yeah.
just
let's get it
Just
be
resolved.
proactive and,
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
All right,
Let's do that.
we got that.
I mean, it's not subject to reimbursement. And it doesn't have to go out to bid because it's engineering services.
Okay, we'll move forward with
Okay,
that.
I'll get a couple,
So-
maybe get a couple.
Obviously not
questions.
any
We'll
risk
hold
right
on
now.
getting a quote for grills and spray insulation
Yeah.
until someone else reviews it?
Right,
Okay, that's fine.
all right, miscellaneous auditorium stage issues, we talked about the egress lighting, but there were some other stage issues in the flooring in the front of the stage.
That
and the-
stage is a
And
mess.
the railing that's loose and
Fixing
paint coming
the
off.
railing, they're fixing the railing today, the concrete's going in today,
Concrete for where?
for the floors.
That little storage room in the
Yeah,
back,
that
right?
stage is awful. Those kids were tripping, getting shoes caught. I mean, that stage is really in bad shape.
The
That is a
existing stage
shame
is
with
finished.
the performance that they do, that these kids had to worry about tripping and pieces of wood that were coming up and holes and gaps. I mean, that's a shame.
Well, those things were fixed, they didn't have any holes in them during their performance.
No, okay, I'm gonna
just
go
saying,
back
the
there.
floor's terrible. The
I know
floor's bad.
I know
I'm not
yeah, it's
disagreeing
bad.
with
There was one piece coming from the door.
That
from
thing
the
should have been
corridor that got
replaced.
The
repaired.
backstage.
That whole thing should have been replaced, right? It took how long to get those things around the pipes coming down?
You could have even went over the top of it with a half-inch finished plywood and left it and went right on top of it.
Those
Well-
end up popping though, we've done that, Phil.
Yeah.
That solution does not work. I did it, we just did it in high school and it's popping. It is, yeah. I know what you're saying,
Because that's all
We've
that's on
done
the
it,
high
and
school.
it's-
The high
couple
school
of them are
stage is
bubbling.
only plywood, it's finished plywood that we.
Well, I
Yeah.
know people that worked on this production wanna see if they can get a grant of money to replace the stage. Is that not pathetic when we could possibly do something about it? I mean, it's
The
not
whole
only a
stage at the middle
safety
school.
esse, but it's a mess.
So the stage flooring continues
It's a-
beyond what
yes.
you see.
Yeah, it's beyond
That's
that concrete. That's even worse. That's like a tripping hazard in itself. But to hear
Yeah.
that people that work so hard on this production are gonna see if they could get money elsewhere to fix this stage, that's pretty sad. In my book, I think it's sad. They do an awesome job. Those kids spend a lot of hours. All the people that work on that production give their time and they gotta worry about tripping and loose boards and someone's gonna get injured. Backstage, it's bad. I've seen it. It's bad.
Something that
so what's the
happens on
size of the area that
floors.
we're talking about? Because I haven't heard about this before.
No, Michelle's brought it up at the stage. She's probably sent notes to some people about the
Different
stage.
spots here and there that she was complaining about.
It should just be ripped up and replaced. I mean, we got a beautiful
I-
auditorium, we got beautiful curtain, and we got this,
I know, I'm not an expert in this by any means.
This is backstage?
But backstage, there are issues backstage with the concrete, there are areas where
That's being addressed.
walls
That's
were
being
taken down.
patched
Yeah, which is
today.
yeah,
something.
the
That hasn't been
concrete's
done.
being addressed.
And there were some loose wooden boards that were
They were
really
addressed. I think they
replaced.
were addressed already.
those were addressed, those have been
Yeah.
addressed.
Along with the saddles that were put in by the doors.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think
And the
Diane's
stage.
saying that the stage
The
itself.
stage
stage
itself,
proper itself
yes.
is-
But
it's
we've
a-
never talked
But-
about that though. At
Well,
least not.
Michelle has brought it up many
But
times.
I don't see anything, I've seen the stage, I don't know.
Well,
what the
you're
issue is.
not on it with different shoes with
I know.
props
No, I know.
and again, I'm telling you that the people that are running the production are
Well,
looking at ways to get money because of that stage.
Phil Piazza needs to come to us and tell us.
I don't remember when we did the ed spec, I don't remember this.
Well,
mean,
we
the
almost
issue is-
didn't have a curtain, so we got a nice curtain and
Well,
that
that's
was,
not
yeah.
true, that was an alternate.
That was an
doesn't mean
alternate,
we
but I'm
didn't get it.
just saying, I don't think anybody ever went back there and really looked at it. I, for one, did not until it was playtime and I had to spend time there, that went and started looking at these things.
All right, one of the issues that we have is when we listen to various people, and I'm not saying that they're not right, but we need to centralize that communication to us, and Phil Piazza's gotta be the one that comes to us and say, please look at this.
Well, there seems to be a gap there.
Well, he's.
I know, but I'm just saying, there's a gap there. But I'm just telling you the reality, you've got people in the production looking at, trying to get money to fix that stage. Now, that stage should be beautiful, just like the fields. It's nice to see those fields are beautiful. A lot of people comment on it. We should have the same for the stage.
So you want turf on the stage?
No, I don't want turf on the stage, I want a new
That's your
floor.
attic stop.
I want a new floor.
But so the people that have gone through that,
Stock.
because I heard complaints about the acoustics too, from the theater, from the auditorium. So, you know, I think we have to figure out if this is a hazard. We haven't heard it as a group that we should
No.
have repaired the stage floor. We knew we had patches. Michelle has talked about the patches that had to be fixed, but I didn't know there was anything wrong with the stage floor itself. So if that's something we should talk about, we should talk about it. That's a fair point to bring up, but
It's something that was Valiant, VE'd out,
It's,
is it engineered out?
I think originally, going way back to, design development phase, there was, a replacement of the stage floor, and Perkins made an evaluation of the stage floor and found that it was, replacing it was, stage floors aren't like finished floors to begin with. They're very sacrificial in nature. So if you go to like your high school stage floor, it's probably just painted plywood. So it's as a finished floor, it's never going to be like a, it's not intended to be, a hardwood floor.
Which is
Yeah,
what
but how
there.
old is it since the building's been, I
So
mean,
this is an area
seriously.
that there's a lot of access, so equipment's going over, kids are.
Yeah, kids are, it's the
Yeah.
whole,
Okay, so
Just want it to
something
be
that's just
solid.
where
You want it to be
keep
solid.
want it to be
Perkins
solid.
found it to be solid at the time that they
Structurally,
made,
yeah.
structurally solid at the time
Yeah,
that they made that
you have to
determination.
look at it
You got-
from
you
the
also-
activity.
I
You also-
want,
you also
I
have-
want feedback from Phil Piazza before we move forward on anything, because
You gotta remember though,
His building.
those hardwood floors, just like the gym floor, we sanded that thing down.
yeah,
And that theater did not have any type of humidification, anything in there. So what happens, as soon as you
That's-
open the pores of that wood up,
Yeah,
you start
true.
getting movement
True.
in that wood, just like we have in the gym floor. We sanded that thing right down the wood, and now you're getting movement in that floor, and that floor's floating a little bit now because
Yep.
we opened up all the pores in the wood. Same thing's gonna happen to that floor.
Very
in-
true.
In the auditorium.
I know, well, I voted for a new floor, but I was outvoted, so. See, I had foresight.
all right. So some of the
Oh,
repair
right.
work is being done,
Oh,
some
you-
concrete
We
and,
put we fixed the pipe.
Yeah, I saw that.
We did all the work on the pipe, so that's not dangerous anymore. They're finishing up the floors today. The wood was repaired, the saddles were put in. So pretty much the list that Michelle had for us should be done by the end of today.
and the railing.
And railing also.
What about the floor in front of the stage?
So the flooring out in front of the stage, when we reviewed that as well, where it seems like it's patchy is because the actual painting of that area was done as a change order. It originally had carpet installed. The carpet was removed, and in removing the carpet, there's the glue ripped off some areas. So when they painted, those are the areas that seem very muddled or spotted right now. So the only other remedy, so the way that the change order was originally done was, to basically patch the floor. But in order to get a consistent paint finish across the thing, we would have to do paint it in its entirety. So
Well, it should have been done to begin with, once we took the carpet off. They cleaned the glue, they used something on it to take the glue off. and they should have primed it, painted it, it should be all one color. Why would it bleed through? I don't think they prepped it correctly.
I'm not sure that the original, change order was structured for them to do it as a complete, I don't think that they could get all of the glue off.
I don't know about that. I don't
They
believe
couldn't
that.
get the
wasn't
glue
much
off, so
holding.
why would we have recommended
The
doing
Tiles were
it that
coming
way?
up without having to
Yeah,
remove it.
I've definitely seen that glue removed before, like, there's a solid that will take all the glue off, for sure. And then they should have primed it, and then they should have painted it.
Carpet adhesive glue, is that what we're talking about?
I'm gonna just revisit that change order, Phil, because we get in those situations and we're just like, hey, let's pull it and paint it because we're gonna be pulling this thing back and forth, and at the time, I agree with what you're saying. Do this thing right, prime it, paint it completely with probably a solid epoxy type, something that's probably like in your maintenance
Whatever we used,
office.
I thought that's what we were doing.
I understand the thought, but at the time when we did it, I don't know if that was the thought. Maybe what where we would maybe imagine it now. It's that 2020. So
Oh, yeah, but I just don't imagine taking up carpet and painting that area and not prepping it or doing it correctly. I don't care what kind of product you use.
yeah, revisit.
It seems like it was primed correctly, there wouldn't be any bleed through.
Yeah, for anything to bleed through. That's, just common workmanship practice, I would think.
We'll go back and look at it, Phil, and if
Yeah.
it's something that's owed from the trade
Because
contractor,
it's
then
definitely bad looking. I mean, it's
we'll tell them to
horrendous
go
job.
back.
The other thing there with that those railings were never repainted with the better paint,
Like the
and it's
main
peeling
one.
off.
I
think that was-
had confirmation from Lindsay
Yeah,
that they
I
addressed
thought
it.
they actually came in and did that.
Yeah.
I think they came in
I
and
didn't see
sanded that
it,
and did
last
it.
week I didn't look like it.
Have them take a look at it because it doesn't look like it was.
I know Lindsay said they were scheduled to come in, it might not have got done, it might have been something with somebody being in there or something.
That one looked a little beat up a little bit.
Yeah,
if I
it
recall.
doesn't like the ones in the main stairways and everything, that looks nice and crisp. These still look like they're peeling a little bit.
I'll go back to Lindsay and ask her what the status of it is. I thought that she had confirmed to me that
I don't,
it
it
was
didn't look
already
that way.
addressed.
And the railing is loose, they're gonna,
You need to
The
secure
loose
it down
railing-
through.
The loose railing is being addressed today.
okay.
Because that was only secured into the floor, not down through the sub-floor and structure.
Okay, Phil, we talked about a lift for maintenance, anything new
Yeah,
on
actually,
that?
I'm going to an auction, well, it's not an auction, by Herc rental this week. We're looking somewhere around $6,000 to $8,000, depending upon the quality of which used one we can look at, but the brand new ones are $24,000, which is ridiculous.
So keep us-
And there's one left in my boiler room that I was thinking of moving, I don't know whose it is.
That they left behind?
I don't know.
Maybe it was a
Thought
donation.
They left it for me, I'm not sure.
Oh, can I add something here? I brought this up a while back about the paint, the yellow paint in the circles and on the curbs, for the fire, that it was peeling, and I brought it up and it was mentioned, oh, spring, so it's spring. I mean, that's really, if you look at new buildings and when they stripe those curbs with the yellow paint, you don't see it do what, this is awful.
Second time it's all peeled off.
It's the second time it's
Yeah.
peeled off.
Yeah, so it's spring
It's
now.
been repainted
Yeah.
already a second time.
But what they did was, they just went over it, they never prepped the curb. The curbs are so, there's nothing for the paint to grab on. The curbs are so shiny the way they're finished, there's just
They weren't
nothing for
intended to
that.
be painted,
It's
the way
not
it's
happening.
finished.
It's
You
not
get a
happening.
smooth trowel finish like that on a concrete,
And you
It's not gonna
look-
stick.
You come in and you go down into the teacher's lot,
the
you
sandbox.
check that, no, you check that curb on the right side, that paint's staying on. So there's gotta be something, because if it's staying on a lot of the curbing and not staying on a lot of the other
Not when you
curbing,
pull in
Yeah.
and then you go to the circle, when you pull in, it's like a mess, I notice it, I've been picking
Yeah.
up a lot, and I'm like, this is disgusting. So,
What-
it's spring, I brought it
That's the only thing I
up,
can think of.
What could we
is
do?
that the way it's finished on the top of the curb, some of their curb they brought in was putting in that preformed.
Precast.
Oh, no, it wasn't precast, it was all poured.
Extruded.
Some of it was brought in the machine, the guy came in and
Bless you.
it
It's
runs that
extruded
box.
curb.
And then the other one was part of the sidewalks. That was where we're
Hand trowel,
having, where we're having the problems. So.
Yeah, because the extruded curb isn't hand troweled.
Right.
When it's integral to the curb, it's hand troweled.
Right. So, and then you get that nice smooth glass finish, which is always nice to have on concrete, if it's just concrete. And then you're not getting any paint to grab on.
Is
I
that
think.
on the top surface as well as the vertical?
Facing, so yeah,
Because it's not just
Just
tire
the way
webbing.
that
then
it's
not-
formed, isn't it?
top and bottom.
That's all
Yeah,
integral.
the
Side
whole, that
or
whole,
Yeah.
the whole, it's all in the circle in the road, so what can we do? Because it's spring when I brought it up a while ago.
In order for that
Definitely
paint
had
to
good, haven't
grab.
had good weather.
No, I know we haven't had good weather, but I'm just saying
But
it's spring and I
I
didn't
would say you
want.
have to run some type of grinder on it. That's what I'm thinking.
Easy that, you're saying you have to etch it, you have to get an etch on that concrete, because the way that's finished, paint's just not gonna, unless you put a strong bonding agent on it and then paint it. I mean, it was never originally intended, and we painted it afterwards, so there has to be some sort of, let's say, aggressive preparation of that, for that paint to really adhere to
So
that.
who's gonna look into that, or what do we do with that? Because it's all over the place. It's even getting in the grass now. It's, people are going over it and it's
Chips.
flat.
Yeah, because it chips right off, you can probably
Yeah.
peel it right off.
Yeah, I mean, we've got areas where we've aggressively plowed this winter and the paint stayed on the curbs.
That's what I'm saying, like.
It's probably the difference between extruded curb and cast in place curb.
Right.
As to whether or not the paint's holding onto it. We'll go ask Computero. Take a look at it.
Thank you.
And, what? The last item that's not on this list is the gym floors, and I was in the school last week, and they really are, there's a lot of gaps in the floors, and they're
Nothing we're gonna do
moving a
about
little
that.
bit.
Nothing you can do about them now. I just want to see what happens to them in the summer if they close back up.
But we're talking about adding humidity to the space, possibly to close those up.
But before you add humidity to that space, we gotta make sure those pans are draining correctly. Because I know that was on my list.
I believe that's already
we
been
can
confirmed
address.
by the commission.
We confirm that they're draining
The
correctly?
commission agent looked at that.
Okay.
But even in the summer, though, my concern is now you have a brand new mechanical system. Even in the summer, it's going to dehumidify that space. I wouldn't expect the relative humidity to come up that much unless you shut that system down
Or
and
force
allowed
it.
it. What's that?
Changes up.
You can force it, you can change the control settings to allow for more humidity in the space
I think we'd
without dehumidifying.
I think we'd have to do it very slowly, gradually, and see what that does. Because I think too quickly you
Yeah.
can
Buckle
expand
before.
too fast for that. But it's consistent across the
Yeah.
entire floor. It's not one area. This is in both gyms.
Both gyms.
Are very consistent in nature. Where every 8th or 9th
And
board.
just so you know, the same thing happens in the high school.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, you get the same thing in the high school. The floor floats.
But that one's newer, right?
Yeah.
So that one
12
should have been
years old.
conditioned and installed with the space the way it was going to be in the future, so, yeah, it does have movement, they all have some movement, but not to this degree is
All right, no, I said that, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
pretty extensive, I've never seen this before.
They look to be
This extent.
1/4 inch.
They're huge,
Caps.
there's a lot of them.
Yep.
And I think, I suspect that might be leading to some of these dead spots that people are reporting, because now this floor is not the same floor you had. It's the same wood, but it's really not the same floor that you had when we started the project because of the conditioning in the space. So you really have a lot of individual areas of floor, and that's my guess. And I think that might, I know there's been complaints of musty smells, and the question is that releasing from underneath the floor that's been there for how many years? Spills and fluids on it, and what that could be from underneath the floor. That's, again, a guess, a hunch, but the rest of the space is
Is it like
finished.
a tripping hazard for basketball?
No, no, it's
flat.
No, it's flat. It's just gaps.
It's flat, it's just your
don't-
appearance is,
And I don't know that a new floor would have eliminated all the problems, but we did, on the recommendations that this floor would be, go down to wood, take a few layers off, and it would be better than new, because they don't make them like that anymore. And so it's just disappointing to see that.
Then it's shrinking up.
And when it was first done, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
now
it's
it's,
tight, beautiful.
it's just had time to,
it was kind of an unanticipated issue. Now, you said you can adjust the humidity in that area?
You know, what bothers me more is the continual smell that people complain of.
Yeah.
Is there a way, we're gonna wait until the summer, and I'm just thinking about another 8 months more of meetings like this, which is okay if that's what it takes to get the job done, but if we're gonna be around that long, can we just go rip up a 10 by 10 section of that floor, and if it's already needs to be shimmed and fit back together, can we just go see what's under there to figure out if the smell is part of it? What are we waiting for?
I don't know how that-
We're gonna pump some humidity into there, and it's still gonna smell. The
Maybe it'll
floor-
smell more.
Yeah, the wood may come back to life, but it's still gonna smell. Can we just get a peek underneath there and see what's going on before we decide we need a new floor or we don't?
I guess, how do you go about doing that? I mean, you're taking out you're taking out portions of the floor
Yeah,
to do that.
I could do it.
I mean, it's up to you.
I got my friend Lou.
We
and a
can rip it up,
chainsaw.
but we can't put it back together.
But you're
Well, I
thinking,
mean,
so you're thinking it's
what would
like
the
dust and
contractor
stuff
do?
underneath?
Well, it could be dust. I mean, I hate to use the M word. It could be anything, Who knows
Well,
what
it's
it is?
been there,
but
what, 50 years?
It's been there a long time. I
Been a
think we
long
need,
time.
if we have problems with it, I think we need to see what's going on underneath
Did
it.
we not take corings from them floors and have them analyzed for what was underneath the?
For the adhesives, yeah.
I think we checked I didn't check for hazardous, but
I don't know, I'd have to go back and look
Check.
through the reports. That
But
was
that's
a long
all.
I
time
know we
ago.
took, I know we took a lot of
Yeah.
corings there.
but what the condition of it is underneath this floating floor over 50 years,
Yeah.
hard to say. I mean, it's,
How high are the sleepers?
How high is the one?
Sleeper.
I mean,
underneath.
Sleepers are, they're
current system, they may be
maybe
half
an
to
inch.
3/4 inch,
somewhere
maybe,
around
depend on the system, but
Yeah.
enough there's an air, there is a
Yeah.
gap underneath there to, it's not sitting, it shouldn't be sitting right on.
So I guess, the issue, we know the condition, what do we do next? I mean, is there, I don't know,
Well,
I
if
don't
this
know how we move
happens,
forward.
we can't be the only school that this has happened to, based on what everyone's saying. So what other people do when they have this problem?
Because when we were in there, the gym teacher was saying she doesn't even want the air conditioning.
Well, they say it's
So,
noisy,
I don't
so
know.
they can't hear each other when because the
It's noisy.
systems, well, it's inside those air handlers are inside the structure, they're not on a rooftop where they would
Well,
normally
the old
be.
ones were too, so, I mean.
Yeah.
and they
Well,
were
it's a new
much-
space.
They were a lot noisier.
It's a new space, so the expectations, I think, are much greater, but, yeah, I think, and again, talking with the design team collectively, I think the first consideration might be to increase those humidity levels a bit to get that floor closer to what it's used to living in. It's very dry. That's one guess, and kind of see what that does. I want to get too aggressive right off the bat, because you might do something, that might be more detrimental than what it is, so.
Okay, so we do that, then if it doesn't work, then what? Like, what have other schools that have had this happen, what have they done? Do we know? I mean, based on what everybody's saying, this is like a normal thing, but not, we're, I think, a little bit beyond normal with
It's a
the.
normal
It's
thing
normal to
for
expand a
Right.
contract.
to
This
expand
much,
the track.
I
don't know if
have
it's
not
normal
seen
for
this
other
thing.
schools, I mean.
We'd have to, reach out to other
Yeah,
systems
so
and see.
we've refinished gym floors and added humidity and environmental controls at schools, previously. This isn't the first one. I don't recall any issues ever to this magnitude where, the floors moved, but again, it's every kind of building's unique. So, but I can go back to, those facilities departments and say, did you guys experience the same thing and you're just dealing with it? Is that the reason why we've never heard about it? Or is it,
Yeah, it's worth
And-
noting, I mean.
and, what's the relative humidity in your space?
Well, that's a good
Yeah.
question. If we're over treating the area and it's too dry, then, that might be the issue too.
Yeah,
That's
those are
why
good
it happened.
questions.
Yeah, I mean, we just, a year ago, we just turned over Enfield, which is a double gym. I mean, it's huge. Their gymnasium is gigantic, and we saved their wood floor, refinished it, and added, controls to the space. So that would be one facilities department that I would just go talk to first. We did the same thing in Norwalk for Brian McMahon High School.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
Yep, that's a good idea,
Thanks.
thank you.
Okay.
The only other issue I have is, and I know Alex looked at this too, was the supports for the piping for the HVAC systems that sit on top of the hallway leading to the gym on the outside of the building during heavy snows.
Snow.
Was coming down on top of the
Yep,
pipes.
that we've sent notification to the contractor
That
that
would
they
be more
need to.
structural support on that.
Yep,
This was for the units on the roof?
Where was this? The snow was falling where?
there's exterior piping on supports that runs from the units. And
Inside the gym to the HVAC units to, mounted onto the roof. And there are supports that hold them. There needs to be more supports because they also run underneath the gym roof itself, which drops piles of snow
the
down.
gym was dropping piles of snow on top of the piping,
Oh.
so I don't
Just
think the
More of a field-
contractor
more of a field
anticipated.
condition,
Yeah,
like
I don't think the
anything.
contractor anticipated having a snow load like that on top of it.
Well, it's New England, they should.
Well,
All right. I have no, Green Skies is still
Yeah,
in
what's
limbo.
up with them?
Well, they're fine.
They can't do
They're
anything
waiting for
until
us.
the roof is
We
done.
can't, the main reflectors they want to put up is where we're gonna put the drains in.
Oh, okay. So they need that to be resolved, right?
But they're on board, they're still on board,
As far as I know, they're on board.
yeah. I haven't heard anything more either. Okay,
Dave, did you guys also want to talk about a fence on the outside of the turf fields with,
Well, there's a lot of things we
Well,
can
I'm just-
talk
I'm
about.
just
Yeah,
asking.
no,
before you leave,
One of the things that,
excuse me, Goldie's gotta leave, that'll be the end of our quorum, but we can stay and still have a discussion. So I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.